Testing. Oh yeah, we're golden. Okay. All right. So Josh, are you willing to describe an engine? Describe what the engine did?
Sure. Am I on right now?
Yeah, you will be. I'll introduce you in just 1 second.
The New Brunswick Archeology Podcast, featuring your hosts, Gabe and Ken Holyoke.
Welcome back to the New Brunswick Archeology Podcast. I am Gabe Rydick, and I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I'm joined, as I am every fortnight or thereabouts, by Ken Holyoke for this special, that's right, listeners, special intrusive feature of the New Brunswick Archeology Podcast. How are you, Ken?
Very best, and yes, sitting here in Lethbridge, we've both been on the road, and that's sort of what this show is about. You've been down on the east coast of Ocean City, Maryland.
That's right.
A hot spot of former glory, I guess, coastline glory. I'm guessing. I picture
it was also a literal hotspot. We had students just going into the water. It was nuts. And then I
really?
came back to Fredericton and it was snowing.
Huh.
Yeah. It was.
That's actually kind of surprising.
Yeah, I mean that's climate change for you. But no, it was. I mean, it was lovely. It was do you know that feeling it only really happens between like July 28th and August 1st in Fredericton, where you might be out for a drink and then you walk home and the air is assumed like that skin temperature and you just feel as if you're walking through a sort of perfect, comfortable, temperate feeling. It's because you're walking through a feeling, you're not walking through the air at that point. Yeah. And that's what Ocean City was.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
Yeah, and it must be a lot down there.
Did it have the rusty merry-go-round and the creepy boardwalk, or is that just is that further north on the Jersey Shore?
I think that might be further north on the Jersey Shore ordinarily, except that we were very off season.
Okay.
We were so off season that the hotel room was $69 a night. So off season we were.
That's pretty good.
It's American, so it's
$1,000
Canadian. Yeah, easy 1,000 Canadian pesos.
Yeah, exactly.
And but no, it was great. And but many things were closed, including the Dunkin' Donuts across from the hotel, which is a bit of a challenge. But we're foreshadowing a bit here, listener, about what we're actually going to discuss. And so what I should say now is that we are sponsored, as we are every fortnight, by the Association of Professional Archaeologists of New Brunswick. But listener, we are joined. It's not the Balvenie Scotch Company, but it's damn close. We are joined by an equally thrilling new sponsor. And Ken, would you like to tell us about this sponsor who is near and dear to your heart and also near and dear to your wallet every other Friday?
Yeah, so we are now going to be sponsored every fortnight by the University of Lethbridge, Office of Research Innovation Services, and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. So we are the proud recipients of a University of Lethbridge Shirk Exchange grant, which is going to be funding the ongoing production of this podcast and some pretty exciting stuff coming up over the next few months now, which is great. So congratulations to Gabe and on this is something we've been kind of working on in the background to try to get things off the ground. And I found out last week while I was in Toronto that we'd gotten the funding, and so we're figuring it out, and we'll have some exciting announcements to that come out of this as well.
That's right. And I mean, really congratulations to Ken, and the listeners should know that Ken actually did most of the work on this. It was not every listener knows that editing Ken is actually, it's like, I'm reminded of being in a Whole Foods once in 2007 or thereabouts, and that was the halcyon days of Whole Foods, and I saw a man carving a wheel of cheese in bas relief to look like a stained glass window. That's what editing Ken is like. You get presented this gigantic wheel of cheese, and you are there with a knife, just shaving it down until you find the part you were looking for. And so that's, I think, a bit what this grant was like. And so this is really all Ken in that regard. I just chipped away until we primarily met the word limit, but also the central theme.
Yeah. I write the forest. I write the forest and the trees. That's the.
He does, and I fire up the chainsaw every once in a while if I were looking for it. So, Ken, but what are some of the things that's going to enable us to do?
So obviously it'll be the continued production of the podcast, which is great. You might notice some improvements in our production quality, as we actually are able to now hire a student producer who will probably be a student at the University of Lethbridge, possibly out of our digital audio arts program. So these are students who are actually learning how to do audio production. We may not be producing everything in the free program Clipchamp anymore. Lo and behold, probably not the best way to retain the audio quality. But we'll also be so we'll have some student engagement on the show. We'll bring on our student hires or hires whenever we get them on board, so that you, listener, can meet them. And we're also going to be able to do sometime in the new year our first live show, which is pretty exciting.
That's right.
Date and location to be set, but listener, you will hear it here first. And we'll also be confirming to be live at the Canadian Archeological Association meeting in May in Saskatoon. And so again, probably will be tied in with our academic activities there. But we'll endeavor to do a live show and maybe rope in some of the executive at the CAA and some of our colleagues and friends who will be in attendance.
Yeah, and when Ken says academic activities, he really means, he's speaking for himself there, listener. I have tenure. Ken still does not. So I actually will be probably there in exclusively a podcast role. You'll notice me because I'll be slunching around a hoodie that just says New Brunswick Archaeology Podcast, possibly gym shorts, and you'll just see me occasionally while Ken is off slaving away doing, 3 or 4 talks and a poster and, recruiting new graduate students or whatever you do out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's very exciting. And we do really appreciate that. And in part because we're trying to sort of grow this thing that we do here. And part of growing that has just been, we're trying to get more quality on the one hand, right? We're trying to sort of make it a better product for you, but we're also trying to reach new listeners. So we haven't asked this in a while, but if you don't mind, if you could log into whatever you listen to us on and hit the like button, we really appreciate that. But we have today is
I do just before we sign off on this, so I just want to kind of say it again. So we're going to shorthand this probably in the future, but Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, for those of you who are not aware, is one of what we call the Tri-Council funding agencies in Canada. And so these are bodies that are basically funded by federal money in order to facilitate research in Canada in a variety of different settings. And so Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council focuses on, obviously, social sciences and humanities and fine arts. The what's called NSERC, or the National Science and Engineering Research Council, funds kind of hard science research. And then the Canadian Institute of Health Research, or CIHR, funds health sciences and health-based research. And so these tri-council bodies provide funding. Gabe has held multiple SSHRC grants. I've had SSHRC funding for my master's and my PhD research. They help graduate students and researchers alike to kind of do fascinating research in Canada. And I'm really lucky that at the university where I am, they have a program basically where they applied, the university got funding from SSHRC to fund smaller programs through the university. And so in particular, I want to thank Natasha Tchaikovsky in the Office of Research and Innovation Services and our our Associate Vice President of Research, Dr. Jacqueline Rice. So for signing off on this work and making it happen.
Absolutely. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to putting in for even more funding, and in part through to the excellent help of those individuals who are tremendously helpful, actually.
Incredible. Yeah, and been an incredible help. So SSHRC and ULETH Oris will be a couple taglines that you're going to see probably on our social media posts, and now you know what those acronyms stand for.
Absolutely. And speaking of taglines, Ken, we are not, we're doing an intrusive feature tonight. So we are not doing our usual prize read. There's no option for prize tonight. Although, listener, if you still are after that last bit of Eco4 swag, feel free to write in. And we're also not going to do hit pieces at the end of this program, but we still are going to check our mailbox. And Ken, if in the future someone would like to write to us for, could be the Eco4 prize, could be a new prize name, or it could be just to say hi, or to share some information about our mistakes, or ideally to heap praise upon us, where would they send that?
New Brunswick Archaeology at gmail.com. That's New Brunswick Archaeology, archaeology spelled ARCHAEOLOGY. New Brunswick Archaeology at gmail.com.
That's great, Ken. And if you click on that right now on your computer in front of you, what do you see?
Well, we've got our usual pile of spam. We've got some communication back and forth actually about some upcoming exciting podcasts. We're going to be doing another crossover with our friends at the Screens of the Stone Age.
That's great.
So,
yeah.
That'll probably be coming out. Actually, as the listener is probably sitting down to a nice mug of mulled wine or a mulled cider with maybe a dash of bourbon in it over the holidays, I think we might be launching another one of our episodes with our friends at Screens of the Stone Age right around that time.
Or our listener, it might be a half pint of Allen's and a Campbell cigarette, but that's okay.
could be, yeah. Or a PBR and an American Spirit. So
sure could be, yeah.
Some Cheez-Its.
Yeah, but the listener recall that was our crossover episode where we reviewed the fourth Indiana Jones movie, I guess. Yeah.
So, and I don't know if we haven't quite figured out if we're going to do another movie review. If we're going to talk to them about ancient bones, I think is another possibility.
We might go real.
Might go real. We might go research side. And
is that called breaking the fourth wall in movies? Is that the breaking the something wall?
I think that's when you acknowledge that the audience is there, and then you look at the screen and kind of, that's the fourth wall.
Oh, okay.
I think we can't do that through the radio.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe the way to do that would be to put this on the radio. we like take over some like AM talk station, and all of a sudden, instead of listening to the Yankees, it's
I should see if we can get a spot for our NB Archaeology podcast on our university radio station.
Yeah, I don't know what the Canadian equivalent of FCIC is, but it'd be lovely to get the license at Lethbridge taken away when we accidentally... but not for profanity, just for bad taste,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever listened to university radio at 2 a.m., but I wouldn't call it good taste.
Oh, I have, yeah. We've already talked about my enthusiasm for Avril Lavigne. That didn't come out of nowhere. So Ken's looking at our Gmail, listener, and Ken, what do you see in our email?
So we got an email again from Ricky, who's written a few times, and he said,
"This is Ricky in Vermont, right?"
Nope, this is Ricky in New Brunswick.
Oh, okay, east of the Rockies.
East of the Rockies, east of the Laurentians, or east of the Appalachians, actually.
Yeah, east of the border, east of everything.
Just a quick blurb. In one of your podcasts, Ken mentioned Maquapat Lake. I have just met the great-granddaughter of a person by the name of Duncan London, who surveyed the lake in the early 1900s.
Oh, cool.
She told me some pretty amazing stories. She mentioned that they were losing more and more of the family's land due to rising waters. It's a shame that we're losing the shorelines as fast as we are. Even some of the stories she told me was about finding artifacts and washouts. Thanks for doing the podcast. You guys make them both fun and interesting. Your quests have all been amazing and informative as well. Ricky. So thank you, Ricky. Thank you again.
Thanks very much, Ricky.
And yes, your stickers will be in the mail. And I think actually I don't know about you, Gabe, but I'm almost out. And so we coming up with the third generation of NB Archaeology podcast stickers.
I think we are, and thank you for that email, Ricky. And speaking of stickers, actually, part of the reason I'm almost out is I offloaded a bunch of stickers, Ken, at the Eastern States Archaeological Federation meeting in Ocean City, Maryland.
Yeah. So let's hear what. So you guys went down. Were you presenting anything yourself, or did you just have students that were with you?
I did present. I'm on this Northeastern Archaeological Survey project, and so I presented kind of lead on our recent research at Sip Bay in Maine, and then I was also co-author on Arthur Anderson's paper, which I think the listener is going to hear about.
Yep.
That was me, Arthur, and Al Honsinger, who's a recent grad at UNB, who's about to start at UMass Amherst, currently at Vermont Transit, and it's about just kind of our fieldwork we've been doing, and you'll hear it better from Arthur about what he and Al and I are doing. And I was spending.
And the listener will remember that the Sip Bay project, Gabe, we had a live episode from in the summer of your guys.
They will indeed.
You guys in the field at Sip Bay.
That's right. They'll remember the iconic shaking sound that surely no one ever doing an archaeology podcast has ever used before, which is to hold the mic to the shaking screen of the material.
I was supposed to make that our new transition sound, wasn't I?
No, I think the shh has become iconic. All 48 of our listeners are enthralled by the shh.
So
thing.
if we switch away from Clip Champ though, I don't know if we have that swoosh sound anymore.
Well, we might have to switch to the
we might might be forced into it. So you had a whole group from the Northeastern Archaeological Survey there.
That's right.
You were in Ocean City, Maryland, which based on your description and the description of some of our colleagues and friends who we'll hear in the interviews coming up in a few minutes, was quite beautiful, actually.
It is, and I was sort of surprised by this. I have a somewhat Bruce Springsteen tinged view of the Mid-Atlantic, and I also have a view that's tinged by having family from New Jersey, right, which is not the most beautiful part of the Mid-Atlantic, it must be said. And I did not expect to like it as much as I did. And I think part of my enthusiasm, though, was that we were apparently like 2 weeks after the season closes. So the hotel rooms, one of the great things about ESAF is it prides itself really on accessibility for students or like kind of anyone that wants to go.
Yep.
Hotel rooms were $69 a night, which is awfully affordable by the standards of conference hotel rooms. That's American Canadians. Yep. And was struck by as I immediately walked up to my room in the Holiday Inn. The $69 was getting me an oceanfront patio.
Oh, no way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I did not even have the most prime of rooms. The other people at the two of our students sort of came down and we were meeting for dinner and they said, I have an oceanfront room. And I said, I think we all have oceanfront rooms. This appears to be a quirk of the conference. So
that's lovely.
We were very well put up there. And it's always a good meeting. And actually, I think one of the things that's fun about ESAF is it's usually hosted by local archaeological societies. So they sort of organize this and they find an affordable place. And it's often an excuse to go to a town you've never been to before.
Yep.
I think we've been to Watertown exclusively for this reason.
Yeah.
I've certainly never been to Bucks County, Pennsylvania, for any reason other than an ESAF meeting.
East Portland, which is not Portland.
South Portland.
South Portland, yeah. So,
yeah. You would have been horribly lost.
Yeah. The listener has heard some conversations from the Society for American Archaeology meeting, which was a big one in Portland, Oregon, and kind of goes to these big locations. The Canadian Archaeological Association, mostly Canadian, but is still another international conference for the most part. But what is special about ESAF, apart from the sort of accessibility and it's hosted by societies, is that the listener would be interested to know that avocational archaeologists and people, sort of just lay people who are interested in archaeology, are encouraged to attend and actually can participate in it.
That's right.
If they are involved in some kind of archaeological research, or maybe there's we've seen papers, some of which are a little bit more polished than others, but of interested members of the public who present on maybe sites that they found on their properties, work that they've done, sort of volunteering on projects and that kind of thing. And so it's a little bit more laid back that way. And I really like how the format has always been one concurrent session. So
yes,
everybody is in the same meeting room at the same time. And so actually everybody gets to see all the same papers. And so the conversation about what's going on at the conference, everybody knows what everybody else is seeing, and you're not broken off into sort of these little niche groups, right? And so it's a very kind of together weekend.
Yeah, and I was just sort of going to say that because Zach Singer's going to talk about, and he's the president of ESAF, and we all know one another, and so I think we've got a blurb coming up we're doing the time travel thing again, listener, but we've got a blurb coming back or up depending on where you are in this thing, of Zach kind of explaining ESAF. But I think Ken's point about the weekend kind of being a running conversation about archaeology is totally true. And it's and I will say actually this year, and it's a real testament to Zach's work Dave Leslie's work and Steve Israel's work, who organized the meeting. They were kind of the committee that put the meeting together. I have never been to a meeting where the papers were as good universally as the one I was at this most recent ESAF. I would say virtually all of the papers would have been A+ papers at an SAA meeting, and it's hard to say that about papers, right? But and in particular, there was a session about GPR, ground penetrating radar, which the listener will be surprised to hear is not a subject that ordinarily brings great excitement to me. But the folks that are doing GPR that presented are actually making images that I could understand. They actually explained them. They actually showed things that are not just like the after night gray screen on an old 1990s TV.
The pixelated blob.
That's right. Yeah. But so I think, but to the point of, so you're running conversation point about this is that you do really spend 3 days just talking archaeology with people.
Yeah.
And it's great. And there are people who are avocationalists, which maybe, I don't know, a quarter of the meeting. And then the rest is split between academics and CRM archaeologists. And so you just see an enormous amount of archaeology. It's very, very good. And you talk to a lot of people that know a lot. And I think one of the actually real testaments I just want to kind of plug here about it was there was a paper about fluted point Paleo-Indian sites. And that paper was co-delivered by John Lothrop, who is a big deal in Northeast Paleo-Indian studies. Seems to publish in American Antiquity a lot.
Yeah, curator of the New York State Museum. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he co-authored a paper with an avocational colleague, Noel, and I apologize, I can't pronounce his last name. It's SK something, and we'll put it in the show notes. Who owns a property. Has been an avocational archaeologist for a long time, and they're co-presenting at this academic conference, and it's really, really lovely. And it's particularly lovely when you realize that all of a sudden, when you look at these maps they present, that, well, why is it that we know so much about New York Paleo-Indians? And it's because they've facilitated this relationship between avocational archaeologists who know a hell of a lot and between academics who can sort of facilitate putting this stuff all on a map. And so you get a lot of papers that are like that at ESAF. Yeah,
that's great. And so coming up, the listener is going to be treated to 7 interviews, so short clip interviews between our co-host Dr. Reineck here. The first of which is an interview with Josh Cummings, which we're gonna come back to because the interview centers on a bit of a mishap that the Northeast Archeological Survey had happen on the road to ESAF. The next up, we'll have Heather Rockwell, who is an assistant professor at Salve Regina. Zach Singer, who is the state terrestrial archaeologist of Maryland. Jonathan Alberstein, who is a PhD candidate or student at Dartmouth.
I'm not sure. He's somewhere between dissertation and coursework. So
okay, so a PhD student at Dartmouth College or University. Is it Dartmouth College or University?
College.
That's
a very American thing there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Arthur Anderson.
Their motto is a voice crying in the wilderness, which was going to be the motto of this podcast, but they.
Sorry, what?
Their motto is a voice crying in the wilderness.
Why?
I think it was a converting indigenous people kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
But
do you know what U of T's is? Velut Arbor Avo.
What is that?
May it grow as a tree through the ages.
Oh, fantastic! And is that's? I don't want to dox you, but is that how you came to name the acorn?
Oh yeah, it is. Well, yeah, and it's also like the word Quercus is literally tattooed on my back, so it was pretty easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to tell the listener about this story?
Oh yeah, so the listener who has attended university probably since at least 2005 has probably had the painful experience of using some kind of administrative program for your coursework. And if you've taught at a university since then, you have learned that these programs are the bane of your existence. And so each university has a different one. I've taught in D2L. I've taught in
Desire to Learn.
Our current one is Moodle at University of Lethbridge, Blackboard, Canvas, all these different ones. And University of Toronto, when I was there, when I started, was looking for a new name for their new learning platform. And I proposed the name Quercus, in part because part of the crest, I came up with a, I don't know, I'll say eloquent, proposal that included that there's you've got the Velet Arbor Avo, there's oak iconography in their coat of arms, there's an oak tree that's sprouting out of the crest, and so Quercus is Latin for oak, and lo and behold, I had an advantage because my last name is Holyoke, and it's based on an Old English spelling of oak, which is OKE. So my name literally means holy oak. And so there's a Latin translation, which is Sacra Quercus. And so I was familiar with Quercus as my minimal Latin familiarity. And anyway, it won. I was one of two people that picked Quercus, actually, and we both got, I think it was like $150 in bookstore money. And
I feel like you got something good, like a hoodie and a novel or something.
I might have also gotten some swag, but I also got doxxed on Reddit as a result of it, which I found amusing. But when they told me that I had won, there was an administrator that was got very serious all of a sudden. She's like, and I'm not sure if you've heard about the internet controversy about the name. So anyway,
fantastic.
Yeah. So
Ken, can I just pause you there? I wanted to just make sure that because I still don't know how to pronounce it, but Noel's last name, who I just mentioned, it's Strobino. I think it's Strobino, but I apologize if I've gotten that wrong.
Okay,
on the New York Palladium project.
Yeah, so that was the co-author with
John Lothrop.
Yep. John Lothrop. Yeah. Okay. So we've got Arthur Anderson up next after Jonathan Alberstein. So Arthur will frequent guest of and friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Is an associate teaching professor at the University of New England. Dawson Burnett, who is a recent graduate from the undergraduate program at UNB Anthropology.
That's right.
And then we wrap up with our friend and colleague Amy Fox, who's a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto.
That's right, and that's where the restaurant recommendations come in as well, which we know the listener is sticking to. The Heightstown Diner features prominently in that little snippet. Yeah,
a little flavor of Southern New England in there.
Oh no, that's the Mid-Atlantic. That's New Jersey. That's not Southern New England.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you're below the New England.
That's right. No, and Amy Fox will remind you, she has never pumped gas, as one does in Southern New England. But in New Jersey, it's illegal, not just for a lady, but for anyone to pump gas on their own.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's you have to have the station attendant do it.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a joke about Jersey Shore.
Oh, no. I mean, the joke is Jersey girls don't pump gas, but Jersey, nobody pumps gas except for the station attendant.
Is that something like tied in with like a Sopranos episode or something that they're concerned about what's going to happen to the gas?
I don't know. I mean, it does seem a little mobbed up, but I suspect, I don't know. I mean, what, are you not voting for Chris Christie to save our country? Do we foreshadow a little bit the things that are going to happen after this exciting ESAF episode?
Yeah. So coming up here, we're kind of entering into the end of the calendar year, but we've got our episodes kind of planned out through the entire second season, and upcoming we've got.
And the listener should know that one of the listeners that's listening to this, Dave Black, may not even know that he's been slotted for an episode.
yeah. So Dave, if you're listening, expect an email on one of these upcoming episodes. But part 2 of our pseudo-archaeology special is going to be coming up in the next fortnight with Daryl Kellman.
That's right. That's Oak Island themed.
An Oak Island themed episode. And then we're going to have a couple of episodes about professional archaeologists and professional collector collaborations. So similar to the ones that Gabe actually highlighted as being kind of actually a very good tie-in there with the theme of ESAF this past weekend. And we'll be talking with Dr. Bonnie Pitblotto. And Dave, if you're willing, we'll be talking with you as well for a little bit of local flavor on that.
I think he's confirmed. We've just never sent him the calendar invite yet. So.
Okay, all right, that's good. And then we've got our upcoming another crossover episode with the Screens of the Stone Age, alongside a few more thematic episodes, and we might throw in an episode of just a Ken and Gabe show at some point to kind of hash it up with something.
We might. We know that's what the listener really wants, is to go back to the battle days of just you and me, 3 hours of us rambling out.
That's what they're here for. That's
how we built this listenership of 48 a week.
Exactly. So
yeah.
But so now the first interview you're going to hear is not so much about archaeology, but getting to an archaeological conference in which so Gabe is going to share an anecdote now. So Josh kind of relays what the issue is, but we're left with a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of that interview. So the Northeast Archaeological Survey van had a breakdown somewhere in Massachusetts.
No, we were well into Delaware when it finally quit.
Okay, and so
yeah, but not well enough that we could get to.
Yeah. So the van broke down, and so we hear a little bit about what happened. And so what you'll be enticed by a setup to have a follow-up interview about what happened, but didn't have a chance to record it. So how did you guys end up resolving the van issue?
So we resolved it. Ken, I don't know if you've had the experience of having to plead with someone at the Philadelphia Airport Enterprise Rent-A-Car desk. It's not a dignified experience. And I would love to tell you that I didn't say that everyone in the car with me were 14-year-old high school students and I was really desperate. But that may have actually had to be the maneuver I made. And so what had actually happened was the Enterprise, in their infinite wisdom, we ended up pulled over at a Wawa somewhere in Delaware. It's a gas station convenience store.
Okay.
And Enterprise assured us that everything was under control. And at that point, we knew we were in deep trouble. And Enterprise then assured us that they had an Uber for 5 of us to go to the Philadelphia airport to basically reload into a new vehicle. And but it turned out that the reason we were in such a large van was that there were 8 of us. So Arthur and I were assured, Arthur and I were assured that not to worry, there would be an identical van waiting for us at the Philadelphia airport. Naturally, we did not believe this. And so Amy Fox wrangled all the students to a pizzeria and then to a Quality Inn hotel room to sort of wait it out while Arthur and I tried to sort through this. And so we piled together into not an Uber, of course, because Uber didn't service this area, contrary to Enterprise's confident assertions. And 50 minutes later, we were at the Philadelphia Philadelphia airport, where the Lyft driver also had not decided it was appropriate to bring us all the way to the airport. So they had dumped Arthur in our luggage and all the students' luggage on the outskirts of the airport, and I had hoofed it in. Yeah, it was an odd experience. So, I mean, Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love. Is that the phrase?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we had also totally smoked a raccoon on the way in, which I'm not really an animal lover, but it's still not exactly, that doesn't set the tone, And so I wandered in and I said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Reineck. Good news. We have your minivan available." And I said, "Well, a minivan won't exactly do because I've left 8 14-year-olds on the side of the road in Delaware." And so sure enough, it turned out that the 14-passenger illegal in Canada vans have been discontinued in the United States. And I thought to myself, well, they've been discontinued because the engine doesn't work, because that's the experience we just had. They said, no, the backup can wiggles. And I thought, well, okay. Well, that was not my experience. The backup cam seemed fine. But no, I managed to cajole them. And this took a lot of cajoling, I have to say. It's about one hates to refer to this as negotiations, but it was about 30 minutes of negotiations. And ultimately someone was not in the Ford expedition they thought they were going to be in, I guess, that night. Which gave us just enough room with luggage and laps to get everyone where we were headed. So it was a real adventure, and I don't know her name because I think she may have been not wanting to share that with me, but I'd like to really thank the woman at the Philadelphia airport I had my meltdown and explain that we really needed their last 8-person vehicle. And I guess a shout out to Enterprise too, who were awful, but I had this sort of remarkable experience. Spoke to an assistant manager who had rented us the initial vehicle and explained that he perhaps should stop referring to me as Mr. Reineck and instead Mr. Hertz, which would be where I'd be renting my vehicles from in the future. And then when the receiver was returned, it was about 18 seconds before the phone rang, and his manager was calling me to explain that we'd received a significant discount on our weekend rental. So yeah, yeah.
All told, the Ford stayed there, and you hopped in an expedition, which was probably quite an upgrade.
Well, so it would have been had we not had eight people and luggage. It was a bit crowded. It was a real upgrade to drive, in part because the thing about this 14-passenger van is it's so tall. You have to be a little bit aware about the parkways.
Right.
You take that sucker on the Merritt, and you're gonna have a can opener experience very quickly under one of the bridges. And so you really need to approach the whole operation as if you're driving a box truck.
Yeah, very nice.
I appreciate that this happened after we'd gotten us through. We'd gone right through New York just because we thought we'd miss traffic, which we sort of did. And I appreciated the street cred I'd racked up among our students and fellow travelers for getting the initial van, which handled rather poorly, onto the George Washington Bridge, and more importantly, off of the George Washington Bridge, which I think is what we all wanted. So well worth it. I'm told that the South Regina van had a similar trouble on the way back, but they've never been able to put it into words to me via email, which makes me think it must be much worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
we could get them on later to ask them. Maybe.
Yeah, we could follow up with Heather and see what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, listener. So I think that everybody made it back safe and sound. I think everybody had.
We didn't say that, Ken.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, no, yeah, everyone did. Yeah, right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. For legal purposes,
that's right. We had 7.5 students when we came back.
So listener, this was one of Gabe's adventures on the weekend. You're going to hear some educational adventures in the form of the papers and the contributions that everyone was making to ESAF over the weekend. And I hope you enjoy the interviews, and I think we will see you for a more regular episode in a couple of weeks. That's right. And I think that might be it.
I think that might be it. It's a little bit odd. We're still out of space and out of time, as the listeners have grown accustomed to. Yeah. But we're sort of finding our location here, and we're still having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Still managed to get through half a bottle of Courvoisier.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're looking at a half-finished bottle of Courvoisier. And it's gotten weird, Ken. I don't know about you, but this thing where we do the initial interview and then we just leave the glass of Courvoisier out.
Yeah.
But it helps it to breathe, I found. What do you think?
I think it's a good way. It also, you always want to pour a drink out for those that are coming after we talk.
Well, that's profound, yeah. So that's right. We are here standing in a puddle of Courvoisier, and we are ready, listener, to let you enjoy our ESAF experience. And we will see you in about 2 weeks or a fortnight And until then, stay safe.
And thank you. And hit subscribe, email us, and I think I'm going to say one more time, thank you to our new sponsors,
Yes,
the University of Lethbridge Shirk Exchange Program.
That's right. And listener, if you're a deep-pocketed future sponsor, particularly if you own a small Scotch or brandy corporation, you just write to that. Where would they write to us, Ken?
New Brunswick Archaeology at gmail.com.
That's right. And you just put Balvenie in the subject line, and we'll know who you are. All right. Have a good night, listener.
Thanks, listener. Have a good night.
So, listener, we were fortunate that as we were hurtling towards the Eastern States Archeological Federation, that not only is Josh Cummings an excellent archaeologist, and he's going to tell you more about his work at Sip Bay shortly, he's also a Red Seal automobile mechanic. Is that right, Josh?
That's correct. Years ago.
Yeah, years ago. And so, Josh, we were on a Ford van. What would you describe the sound that the Ford van began making? And could you explain that in automotive terms for our listener?
It wasn't so much a sound as a vibration, where one cylinder wasn't firing and the engine was out of balance.
Okay, I didn't know what that look was for. I thought it was like...
And it was causing a vibration in the whole vehicle and a slight knocking noise, and the check engine light was flashing, and that was disastrous for our trip.
So when that occurs, it's bad?
Yeah, very bad.
Cool. And so is this what we tell the listener, that you repaired it all in one fell swoop on the side of the road?
No.
That's right, listener. We were really honest with you. Josh had diagnosed the problem, but he could not repair it. We'll tell you more about what happened next later. I'm joined by Professor Heather Rockwell of Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island. How are you, Heather?
I am great.
Excellent. How are you finding Ocean City, Maryland so far?
It's really nice. This is probably the most scenic conference I've ever been to, like, arguably.
Nice.
The landscape is just beautiful.
Excellent. Yeah. And have there been any highlights that you've done outside of the conference on this trip?
We took a really nice walk on the beach and just got to enjoy the ocean and watch the sunrise this morning. It was pretty spectacular.
Nice. Yeah, the listener should know that the hotel is on the beach.
It is right on the beach. I've never had a hotel room at a conference where I have a balcony overlooking the beach. It's pretty amazing.
Fantastic. And so, Heather, your research is on a bunch of things. You also work on Munsungan Chert, pre-contact archaeology. You've worked in Wyoming, but I wonder if you could tell our listeners what you're presenting on at ESAF this year, which I think is a little further afield of your usual.
Yeah, I've made a hard right turn with this research. So I normally, as you said, work on Paleo-Indigenous people, but for this year, I'm actually going to be presenting on a 19th century estate located in Newport, Rhode Island, that was the site of a mansion called the Edgewater Mansion. We did a GPR survey as well as a small excavation to kind of identify this forgotten mansion. Normally when I talk about sites, I talk about them in terms of thousands of years, and this one we're talking about it in terms of tens. So it's very different.
That's very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I wonder if you could tell us just a little bit about, you brought some students?
I did. I
Excellent.
brought 5 students with me. So I have 3 first-year students who are just attending and experiencing a conference for the first time. And then I had 2 of our senior students, Heather McKee and Natalie Bryant, who are both presenting on their thesis research.
Fantastic. Well done to them. I enjoyed all of their papers very much, and I'm looking forward to your paper tomorrow, and thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
All right, and I will see you at the Denny's for the board meeting very soon.
Very excited.
All right, thank you, Heather. All right, I am joined by Dr. Zach Singer, who is the state terrestrial, that's right, not extraterrestrial, that's his assistant, the terrestrial archaeologist for the state of Maryland. How are you, Zach?
Doing well. Thanks, Gabe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And so first I was going to have you just, your research is a bit of everything now, but you're a Paleo-Indian researcher at heart.
When I can be, yes.
And your paper this morning was about Paleo-Indian research. Could you just give us a quick summary of the Maryland Fluted Point Survey and some of the research you're doing there?
Sure, yeah, happy to. So the Maryland Fluted Point Survey was started over 50 years ago by the first state archaeologist of Maryland, and then fleshed out in the interceding time to include over 170 fluted points from across Maryland. And so I've been using that database to kind of hone in on interesting sites that I can do more research on. So the sites I presented on today were along the Potomac River on property that's owned by the state of Maryland, which is great for me because one of my mandates as state terrestrial archaeologist is to survey Maryland state properties. And so I've been doing research trying to relocate some of these fluted point sites found across the state.
That's great. And just to a theme that we're going to talk about on the podcast later, many of these are reported by responsible collectors, right?
Yeah, almost all of the fluted points in the Maryland Fluted Point Survey, and particularly the ones I went back to and have been investigating further that I presented on today, those were all reported by avocational archaeologists. And the most exciting part, the ones I was looking at today along the Potomac River, the collections were donated to the state of Maryland for future researchers. And so I'm one of those future researchers who's really happy to have worked and coordinated with those avocational archaeologists and now be able to access those collections and have other researchers in the future forever be able to study those.
Yeah, that's great research, and it's a great collaboration that you all do, and you've got even an app I saw now for people to easily report their finds.
Yeah.
And so the listener can't see Zach's also in a fluted point necktie, which has a certain je ne sais quoi to the proceedings here. But the presence of the necktie, as opposed to just the sports coat and jeans uniform, I think is because you're the president of ESAF.
That is right.
And could you tell us a little bit about what ESAF is?
Sure. So the Eastern States Archeological Federation is a umbrella organization that links together state archaeological societies from Virginia up into Maine and even into the Canadian Maritimes. And so ESAF organizes events and coordinates with all these groups so that we can be interconnected and connecting both academic archaeologists as well as avocational archaeologists.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Zach, and congratulations on a great meeting this year. It's I think attendance is up, and it seems like a busy one, and all the papers have been really good. So congratulations, and we'll see you at the Can-Am party tonight.
Thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Zach. So I'm here with Jonathan Alberstein, who is a PhD student at Dartmouth College in a department with a long acronym that I can never remember what it is. What is your program, Jonathan?
It's the EES program. It's Ecology, Evolution, Environment, and Society.
Fantastic. And what is your paper at ESAF going to be about?
So the main thesis of my paper tomorrow is that we can use geophysical prospection to do true landscape archaeology in the Northeast. And essentially what we're finding is that actually using specifically ground penetrating radar, we're actually able to map and document house sites, and we can actually show that there's much larger occupation than we originally thought of, and this can really help give insights to other larger debates about villages, maize, and the anthropogenic paradigm, which is how much humans have interacted and changed the environment around them.
Fantastic, very exciting. Always good to have more late woodland research, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And how have you been enjoying Ocean City so far?
Ocean City's great. Excited to go to Dead Freddy's tonight and see some pirate-themed food, and I'm really excited to see what the Secrets Halloween party is going to be like.
I can only imagine. I will be at the board meeting at Denny's, but maybe I'll join you after. So, all right, thanks very much, Jonathan. So I'm sitting in the lobby of the Hotel Motel Holiday Inn, Ocean City, with Arthur Anderson. How's your conference been going so far, Arthur?
It's been going good. It's always a treat to be on the podcast. I exclusively talk to you in hotel lobbies too quietly.
That's true. Well, or bars. I think we've done this in a bar.
No, that's true. It was a hotel bar.
It was a hotel bar. That's right. And would you tell us what you presented on today?
Yeah, I was presenting on a couple of lithic sources that we have become not become familiar with, we've thought about in our work with the Northeast Archeological Survey. So Jasper Beach, which is well known in the literature and not in the archaeological record, and the Perry Formation quartzite, which we find a lot of in the archaeological record, but I think deserves a greater recognition in the published record.
That's great. Would you like to relay the anecdote that you just heard from one of our colleagues about this? No, you wouldn't. Okay, fair enough. In fact, listener, this is one of the things about ESAF. It's sort of an off the record in the hallways kind of conference. So the moral of the story basically is people are probably not using Jasper Beach, but they are using Perry.
Yeah, Mike Gramley got real excited about it in 1979. It was going to be the next big thing. But the reality was it's not a great material in a nap. And even on sites that are literally on top of the formation, we just don't see very much of it at all.
Fantastic. And how have you been enjoying ESAF in general?
It's been a lot of fun to be in Ocean City.
Good.
I've never been to this part of Maryland, so it's kind of fun. Being from southern Maine, the off-season beach town is something I'm somewhat familiar with.
Absolutely.
It's been a good time, and the Maryland and Delaware societies have done a really wonderful job.
Great. And in addition to all of that, you are the main rep.
I am the main rep. That's a great point. That's what all those meetings were about.
Yeah, exactly. So you're the main rep, and you are the new chairperson of the nominating committee, right?
Nominating committee, that's right. So if anyone wants to be president of ESAF, please get in touch.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And recording secretary, and that's one we're looking for. But like drummers, right? Everyone,
yes.
If someone, they're in high demand.
It's so true, and we've also had the fun. We've been on the student engagement committee.
Yeah, that was fun just now at the CRM Expo.
Yep.
We get to talk to some students and kind of get some feedback about what they'd like to see from the society, making that relevant to students.
Yep, fantastic. And it goes without saying, listener, that we would highly recommend this organization for students.
We would, please.
Yep, and I think we're about to actually go have a drink with one of our alums, and so listener, we'll talk to you later. So I'm here with Dawson Burnett, one of our recently graduated undergraduates, in the lobby of the Holiday Inn Motel in Ocean City, Maryland. How are you, Dawson?
Good. I'm Ocean City. I'm gonna move here.
Yeah. So it's been a good conference.
It has.
Fantastic. Tell us about your poster.
I did a poster on a birdstone tail fragment that I recovered up in Maine.
That's great, and that's sort of unique to Maine.
Yeah, it seems to be the first one in the Maine literature.
Cool. Could you explain to the listener what a birdstone is?
There are some varying theories on them, but most people think they were part of an atlatl spear throwing device as a counterweight, but they also may have been prestige items or grave goods.
Great. And they're about how old?
They're about 3,000 to 4,000 years old usually.
Very cool.
Traditional archaic to early woodland period.
Yeah, and it was an excellent poster.
Thank you.
Any highlights of your conference so far?
Probably hanging out with everybody is really fun.
Yeah.
Meeting new people.
Good.
Kind of learning about different opportunities in CRM and stuff.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so you obviously were at the CRM Expo because it's where you're presenting your poster. But in addition to that, did any talks that you particularly liked?
I really liked the talk yesterday about the double-sided wall features.
Oh, yeah. That was cool. Yeah. Of
really cool
domestic architecture.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Dawson.
Thank you.
And have fun in Ocean City tonight.
Thanks.
Cheers. So we're in the Hightstown Diner, and I am joined by Amy Fox, who is a legitimate Jersey girl.
Yep.
Have you ever pumped your own gas?
A couple of times.
But only under duress,
Under
right?
duress, yeah.
That's what
strained.
I thought. Yeah. And so Amy Fox is a PhD student at University of Toronto.
Hi there.
And she was with us at the Eastern States Archeological Federation meeting in Ocean City. How was your meeting?
I had a great time. Yeah.
Any particular highlights?
I really enjoyed Ocean City. It reminded me of where I grew up in New Jersey, going to the shore.
Fantastic. It was a little bit like being at ESAF Bruce Springsteen, I felt. And you did a poster at ESAF?
Yes, I had a poster about my field school. I teach an on-campus archaeological field school for University of Toronto. And we attract students who are interested in pursuing careers in archaeology and especially CRM training. And we specialize in giving them that archaeological training.
That's great. And how was your poster kind of reviewed that and also dealt with equity issues?
Yes. So I, learning from my students and also learning from my own personal experience over the years in the field, I presented a poster that looks at some of the reasons why disabled students may avoid getting training in archaeological field methods because of either perceived barriers that they experience in their lives that they then will perceive that may happen in the field school, or because of experiences at field school that may be negative. And so looking at research done by the Higher Education Quality Control Board of Ontario, they look at experiential learning as a whole. And so extrapolating that the field school is a space of experiential learning in higher education context, the reasons that these students avoid experiential learning is because of these perceived barriers. So I make, based on the experiences of my students, I make some recommendations about ways to make your field school more accessible to students, such as making an access statement that outlines some of the information that students may be interested in in order to see if they are good candidates for a field school experience, which in my opinion is most students.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and all students, really.
Great.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was really well received last night.
Yes,
the
I
poster
had
session?
some great
Yeah.
conversations with folks. A lot of people were interested in the future of this research, and a lot of people were interested in bringing it into a CRM context,
Excellent.
which
Yes.
I found interesting. I was talking specifically about an educational context because of equity in higher education and the access to all students. But what I like to, and of course I have no jurisdiction in a CRM context. It's business, it's a different world than an educational world, but I really want to empower my students with scripts and language so that they can advocate for themselves in their future careers. That's one of the motivating factors for this research.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for sharing some of that with our listeners.
Cheers.
And the other thing our listeners like to know are food recommendations. And so you know your way around a Jersey diner. What did you order?
Well, I ordered the Reuben melt.
Excellent.
Yes.
So Amy's waiting for the Reuben melt. I'm waiting for the special plate, which is recommended by Guy Fieri.
Yes.
And is my understanding is corned beef hash that you can see from outer space. So we're looking forward to that, listener.
And by that he means it's very large, not that it's glowing.
Oh, we don't know yet, do we?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, Amy. I'm glad you had a good conference. Nailed it as usual, I think.